Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your half-dead hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC, and this is the show where we review all the anime series from the previous season we did and didn't watch start to finish. Today, instead of snakes on a plane, we got zombies on a train for you, and sadly we have to kick some mutts into the trash. I say sadly, but at least Hirohiko Araki would probably appreciate this. But first, John has some news for us. Well, I say news, but since I'm not the quickest podcast editor out there, we should probably call this segment the olds instead. So, John, what are the olds of the day you picked for us?
We could call it news as of this recording. Why not?
Yeah, sure.
Now, I'm looking through some of the anime-related news over the past week. We've got some things like the Bleach manga had just ended.
Oh, right, there's that.
And apparently it had a humdinger of an ending, as far as I heard.
I'm not familiar with that term. What does that mean?
It was just...
Bleh? Okay. Was it depressing, or was it just kind of a non-ending where it's like, okay...
It was like, hey, Kubo, wrap it up.
Oh, boy. Well, to be honest, like, the wrap-up of the fight against... what's his face? Bad guy, big bad guy from the first half of Bleach.
I don't even know. I watched like 10 episodes of the show and didn't even touch the manga, so...
It's been too long. Anyway, big bad guy. Like, the final fight against him already felt like, well, here comes Deus Ex Ichigo and saves the day. Okay. That was really a letdown for me. Like, Aizen Sosuke, right. Like, he was built up so long over the course of the series, like being this larger-than-life villain.
As far as I knew from seeing things, but not really actively reading, it was more like, I have a contingency for everything. It's like, shut up. Well, stop.
And at the end, he didn't. Because Ichigo just went to the I don't know, room of time and space for, I don't know, a few weeks, and advanced to Super Saiyan, and then just completely annihilated his ass without much of a problem. So, yeah, that was, I don't know, kind of a letdown, just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of sad that we never got to see the fabled full Kubo.
Oh, yeah, that was something people were hoping for, like he would, like, go totally batshit, but apparently not.
Yeah, but, you know, hot on the heels of the end of the manga is an announcement of a live-action film.
Oh, that's what... Oh, and I could have sworn that we would get an announcement of a new anime season for Bleach. Live-action film? Why? What?
I mean, maybe another season of the show will follow, but the most immediate news is, hey, we're making a movie film with people in it. We're not animation. It's like...
I know. Well, okay, I say no. The Kenshin movies were alright, so shonen stuff can be done in live action, like good shonen stuff, so maybe if it goes into the same direction, though I would expect, you know, this be more special effect heavy, and Japanese live action movies and special effects are, well, I don't know, a difficult chapter. So,
yeah, it can be a little bit rough, let's say.
Yeah, indeed. Anyway, let's see how that turns out.
Yeah, what else we got? Next week, August 26th, is apparently the opening of the Diversity Tokyo Gundam VR Experience.
Okay.
Where you get to basically kind of like ride in the hand of a mobile suit, and you have a VR headset on, like you're actually being carried around in combat by one. And this is like the first time I've legitimately wanted to say yes to VR, because I think it would be fun to experience.
It probably is. Is there like any mentioning of how much that, you know, empties your wallet if you want to partake in that, or is that like a free thing?
Apparently it's like an 8-minute ride, if you want to call it that, and it's 1,000 yen, which is about $10.
Oh, that's all right, I guess.
Yeah. I guess I don't know when they're running it until, or if it's like a permanent fixture, but yeah, they had a teaser video that went up, I think, late last night, and they had Amuro Ray's voice actor Toru Furuya in the cockpit, as it were, experiencing it himself.
Nice. That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, maybe someday, like when we get a sponsorship and go to Japan.
Oh yeah, like that's gonna happen. Did you smoke
Please,
something today, John? Or
please, someone sponsor us so then we can also go see Sinfo Gear live the next time they do it.
those are some lofty goals, my friend.
Shut up.
All right, they can still be hope. I don't know.
So, we got next on the list. We've got a new Godzilla coming next year,
All right.
and it's being penned by the one, the only Gen Urobuchi.
Yeah, I don't know. Godzilla is in high demand. Yeah, we're getting the Hideaki Anno Godzilla now, and then for some reason a 3D CG Gojira. Yes, by Gen Urobuchi, the guy who apparently likes to do different shit, like with every new project he does. At least now he does. Like first he did some anime and manga stuff, and then fucking Kamen Rider, then now puppets, and next Godzilla apparently. So
Hey, he's got ambitions and he's acting on them, so
he's
good on him.
yeah, he's never boring. I can say for that. And like I already mentioned before, I am a big fan of his writing. I've enjoyed all of his shows. I'm not watching, Thunderbolt Fantasy because I can't deal with the puppets. I can't get immersed in that. But still, if the CG isn't too bad, and if it's not like this, some weird cell shaded low frame CG, but instead, full frame, full motion video, whatever. A fully rendered CG like I don't know, Advent Children or it's probably not going to be on the level of Kingsglaive, which we,
Well, I mean, it's being headed up by Polygon Pictures, and some of the big stuff to their name is Agent, Knights of Sidonia, so take from that what you will.
yeah, those are problematic ones. I don't want Godzilla to look like that because those are exactly the shows I mentioned before and don't want to see. But I think no, that was Casio. I would think about who did the Appleseed CG movies and the anime CG bit in Halo Legends, because I think that was Casio, and that looked good. So I would like Godzilla to look like that. And I don't remember who did the Harlock 3D CG movie that also looked pretty damn awesome. So please make it look more like that and not Knights of Sidonia, because that, in my opinion, are shitty looking shows. And yeah.
Well, I like to believe that everyone has room for improvement. So maybe they could make it good.
Yeah. Also, movie is always bigger budget than TV shows, and that might help too. But we'll see. Yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. Almost solely because, Gen Urobuchi is writing it. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have given this news even a second look. But yeah, since he's involved, I'm like, okay, I'm definitely gonna keep that in my mind and be on the lookout for that, and at least for the trailer, and let's see how it looks and everything. But yeah, interesting.
I guess it's worth mentioning. Sword Art Online is returning with another novel next year.
Oh boy.
Apparently Kawahara put at the end of the 18th novel, Kirito will return.
Oh boy, aren't we overjoyed?
And something I didn't realize is that the last big story arc was like 9 volumes long, like literally half of its run.
Okay. Was that the last one we got in the anime?
No, the last one we got was, I think it was 1 or 2 arcs behind.
Okay.
The only thing that mattered about the second season was Mother's Rosary. Everything else you just throw in the trash.
Okay. I didn't even see the second part of the second season, I think. I only saw the Gale Gun, or whatever it was called. The first part.
Gun Gale?
Gun Gale part, yes. The first half of the second season. So,
yeah, well, you know.
That started dumb, but it actually turned out kind of alright, I guess, or better than I expected it to be. But yeah, I dropped it after that. I didn't finish up, although I heard that some parts of the second half were decent too. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just figured I'd mention this, not out of any sort of obligation or like for the franchise, but I'm sure someone out there's looking forward to more of the same.
yeah, well, I always assumed there would be more Sword Art Online coming because the series is a success, I would say. So, and a lot of people like it for some reason, and yeah, so
Kawahara, if only you put that level of effort into Excel World so that your goddamn feature-length movie wasn't half recap. I'm still a little salty about that. Can you tell?
no, it was
Good.
super subtle.
I still will forever refer to that as being the buddy complex effect. Because
Oh yeah,
much like another Sunrise series, Buddy Complex, it was like, hey, it's coming back for a second season. Hold on. We're cutting it down to only two episodes, sorry.
yeah, that was a rush job if I ever saw one. Really disappointing. I like Buddy Complex, and the wrap up it got was it was really interesting because when the first series ended, it was like, oh shit, and now the real story begins, and then
And then,
nope,
nope, you get about
it's
40
over.
minutes of... It's the same thing that happens with Excel World Infinite Burst. Your expanded story is another 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And mind you, Excel World was a 40 minutes out of an 80-minute feature. Like, excuse me, I need to go flip a table.
Well, don't hurt yourself. At least not over that.
I'll make it a small table, like, a tray,
All right.
I suppose it's worth mentioning 7 Arcs. The dudes what done made Nanoha and a whole bunch of other fun stuff. Dropped a new PV today for their upcoming show, Idol Memories. And because I'm just so willing to jump into the idol hole, as it were,
Mm-hmm.
it's either that or the light novel hole. It's one or the other.
You're also a Nanoha fan, right?
Well, yes, and they kind of took back the second season of Nanoha Vivid from A1 because woof,
Mm-hmm. So I've heard. Yeah, the
woof.
quite spotty in terms of quality, right?
Oh my God, Nanoha Vivid, the first season looked so bad. It's like, what? Why did you hand it off to of all studios, A1?
Hey man, A1 can deliver really, really great animation if
If the show's name is Sword Art or Working.
Yeah, exactly.
And only one of those two is worth watching. Hey, spoilers, it's Working.
I couldn't have guessed. Anyway, yeah, I guess so. You're looking forward to that, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what it's all about because, I like seeing what 7 Arcs do with their productions.
All right, it's completely out of my field of interest, but I assume we'll hear about it on a future sneak peek and or review. So
More than likely, I mean, it starts in October, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's going to be on the next one then.
Yes.
All right. Looking forward to you telling us more about that.
I hope it turns out to be good.
Yes, so do I, at least for your sake.
But, like I said, there are always idols, always.
Okay.
But that's all I got. So I think we can move on with our lives.
All right. Let's move on and dig into the trash, I guess.
Yeah. So, we have in the trash stash today a little something called Bungou Stray Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
It's an adaptation from a manga of the same name. It's all about this guy, Atsushi Nakajima. He saves this man from wanting to commit suicide and joins with him to become an armed detective. Armed in what way? Well, they're very vague about that because a lot of them don't actually use weapons, but special abilities that are modeled after different authors and whatnot, because each character is actually supposed to be after like a different Japanese author. Like we've got Osamu Dazai, probably bigger names that might be more recognizable, like Ranpo Edogawa, Ryunosuke Akutagawa, just a whole bunch of names like that. There, if you're up on your Japanese literature, it might
Ring a
be
few bells.
it might be more familiar in that case. I'll be honest. I had to do a little bit of side research while watching this show, and the way the characters are represented, as well as their ideologies, and the way how some of their powers are named after like some of their works and whatnot, was neat.
Yeah, it sounds like a neat concept, just at least in theory.
And that's the problem. It's neat in theory, and then it kind of wanted to be Fujoshi bait.
It didn't want it to be. It was like, and even for a Fujoshi show, some of those characters play to some weird ass tastes and tropes. Like, and that might all be a result of, oh, we have to construct this character to resemble some of the work, like you said, of the author or his characteristics or whatever. But just what that comes down to is, well, for example, you got your rather typical, let's say, fussy hunk with glasses who gets mad at everyone else all the time, and your Nissan sister fucker hunk. So those are
yeah.
Those are more your typical, I don't know, I'd say Fujoshi Bishi tropes or something. And but then you also got your weirdly suicidal hunk, the guy John mentioned in the beginning that has to be saved from drowning in a river, and that happens quite often because he's very obsessed with killing himself for some reason, which also relates to John. Please explain.
Well, that character in particular, Osamu Dazai, the real life Dazai had a lot of personal problems, and he tried to commit suicide several times over the course of his life, and he finally succeeded in 1948 when he and his lover drowned themselves in the Tamagawa Canal near his house. So there's your parallel.
Yeah, exactly. So the first time we meet that character, he's actually the show is actually framing the death of the actual author or the way he died as I don't know, in a satirical, in a parody way. I don't know. When you told me about that, I might not have the insight because I don't know the authors and their like history and everything, and and what all of that entails. So all of this might just be a clever way for people more familiar with the material and the people to make a bit fun of that in not an offensive way, but in kind of a, I don't know, winky wink, lighthearted way, make it a bit funny. But to me, like just watching from the outside, just that bit of information felt really offensive.
Yeah, and that's the problem is someone on the outside is, without this, outside research, is, number one, you're not going to understand. And number two, when you do understand, you're probably going to be like, oh, really?
Yeah, why would you use that as a punchline of a joke? And a joke that gets repeated constantly.
Yeah,
all the time.
It really wears thin incredibly quickly.
It never stops. Every episode there's like, he's, I don't know, talking to a cute waitress and like, how would you like to form a suicide contract with me? And we could kill each other. And I was like, what the fuck?
It's like Dazai, dude.
Yeah, that was really, really weird. Like, especially his character was really off-putting to me. And again, I don't mind, if you use that kind of story setup for clever comedy, but the comedy in this didn't feel particularly clever. It was like this one-note joke that got played out in every episode and got, like you said, got really old really fast. And a lot of those characters have like these weird kinks and traits that get repeated and emphasized over and over. Like I said, the glasses guy, he yells all the time, always look at his notebooks. There's some weird word plays that are made on his behalf and everything. And yeah, so I guess, again, that's part of, linking the characters to the specific authors. But in the show itself, and if you don't have the background and know, this is referring to that, that's funny. It just feels kind of annoying and random most of the time, and overplayed especially. Yeah, a lot of these character tropes left me kind of mostly confused at times and annoyed.
Yeah, the character you're referring to, Kunikita,
Mm.
they drew less parallels with his character. They kind of pointed out, one of the lady characters was actually his real life lover.
Mm.
One of his lovers, 'cause apparently got a divorce and remarried later on in his life. But yeah, I mean, the parallels they try to draw, while neat, just kind of fall flat without the understanding of what it is they're trying to do. And even then, I still don't quite get what they're trying to do half of the time.
Yeah, I would really like to. I doubt we have anyone in our small dedicated listenership who is familiar with the works of the corresponding authors. But please, if you know at least a few of these authors or one and watch Bungou Stray Dogs, please shoot us an email and tell us how you felt about the show. Like, did you appreciate the humor? Did you get something out of it? Was there like some clever reflective comedy in there that cleverly satirized a lot of the author's work and everything in depth? Yeah, I really like to know if there's like some hidden depth in that show that just went over our heads because we are not familiar with the author's work that are maybe satirized in this show.
I feel like to get a full grasp on it, I probably would have needed a few pages of cliff notes on the side.
Yeah, but even without the lack of understanding, if you are not familiar with the works of the people the show draws its references from, it has some other missteps that put me off, and mostly it was just like this weird, sometimes really bizarre mix of comedy and serious action that. For me, made it feel more like the show didn't know where it wanted to go. Like the tone tends to be all over the place. It starts, more heavy on the comedic side of things. Putting comedic in quotes here because I didn't find anything in that show to be funny.
It's like they tried to juxtapose comedy with seriousness, but they couldn't.
Yeah.
They couldn't find a way, so they just kind of like, hey, write this in. That looks good, right?
Yeah. It's like these really, most of the time felt like these really hammed in moments in Full Metal Alchemist, especially in Brotherhood, where you got like this super serious fight setup and everything, and then someone makes a joke about Ed's height, and he freaks out, or something like that, and feels totally out of place in that specific moment. The problem is here it happens all the time, like in this show. Or at least felt like that. And then around episode 3, I believe, it got serious by setting up this feud between the detective agency and this mafia organization.
Oh yeah, when Octagawa showed up, there were some like awesome moments in there, and then it was just immediately gone and over, and it was like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the big players from the mafia, just to elaborate on that a bit, comes after our, I guess, main protagonist, the were-tiger Bishi, and apparently kills the sibling fuck couple on the way. And after were-tiger gets away by the help of the Zai, it seems the next step will be this all-out war between the detective agency and the mafia when the latter invades the agency's headquarters, or at least plans to, with like this bunch of crazy-looking, super-powered people set up as this super evil, powerful, evil assholes. And then the bad guys totally get their butts kicked off screen and literally thrown out of the building through a window. And at this moment, I was like, wait, huh? What is happening?
I was like, you guys want to maybe... Hold on, what?
Especially in that moment, it just felt like the show was making shit up on the fly. Which can't be the case since it's based on a manga. So I guess the manga was making up shit on the fly. But still, like, the action is not bad looking in this show. Like, the moments that were strong, like you mentioned, when the one of the main bad guys goes after a were-tiger guy, the stuff that happens in the alleyway where they fight, that looked really cool. And in the first episode too, when it's revealed that the protagonist has like this hidden power and everything, that was staged really well. I mean, the show is animated by Bones. You would expect that.
Yeah.
It's overall, it's a good looking show. The director is Takuya Igarashi, who has done Soul Eater and Star Driver, so he knows the stuff.
And as well as Captain Earth.
Yeah, the production values are definitely all right in that show, and the direction is okay. But yeah, mostly it's the story and the comedy, like the hey, isn't this guy's weird personality totally funny and adorable style of comedy just didn't do anything for me, and it was way too loud and obnoxious most of the time. And yeah, so and the references flew over my head, so the show had nothing going for it after like the action fell flat, like after the show throwing this weird anticlimax I mentioned before right in my face. That basically killed all the anticipation for any possible future action bits, which I had up to that point, because they might all just turn out to be setups for a mediocre punchline, like in that specific case. And I didn't want to waste any more time on that. So yeah, I don't know. I would put it in the trash. I would not recommend the show unless you are maybe familiar with the authors it's referencing and maybe can get something out of the comedy bits. And even then, they're probably too shallow to really entertain. John, you made it through more episodes than I did, but apparently after that weird thing with the non-invasion of the agency, nothing really happened that made you stick with the show either. So,
like, looking at my Hummingbird account, I watched 8 episodes, and I don't remember anything past that one part, so it really left an impression on me.
Well, that sums it up nicely. So, our big review for this episode is Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress, or...
Kotetsujo no Kabaneri?
Exactly. Thank you. In a fictional, steampunky version of feudal Japan, I guess, the country is overrun by zombie-esque beings called Kabane. People live in towns surrounded by giant walls. Doesn't all of that already sound kind of familiar?
Nah.
And these towns are only connected through railways because, like, the parts between the cities and towns, they're like free-roaming cabane, and it's too dangerous for people to venture there by foot or anything else. And the things riding on those railways are these giant train behemoths, one of them being the titular Kotetsujo, or Iron Fortress. And yeah, people travel mostly around in that. They're not completely safe, but at least they deliver some protection against the attacking Kabane hordes. And the fear of said Kabane in this world is so big that if you are under suspicion of being one of the undead, and basically don't immediately blow yourself up with a handy bomb bag to your heart, you will get executed pretty promptly, because people are so afraid of the Kabane, and there is no real cure or anything, at least not known to people. So yeah, it's that at least in that regard, the situation is pretty dire. In other regards, not so much, but we'll get to that later. So one of the protagonists of the show, Ikoma, is not content with the situation, understandably, and he actually tries to change things for the better. He analyzes that Kabane meat and tries to find out how the infection that is spread by Kabane biting people, how that infection is actually spread, and how the disease that turns people into Kabane is actually, how it actually works. So he comes up with a theory on how to stop the infection. He very quickly gets a chance to test out his theory, because in the first episode, his town gets overrun by Kabane, and he gets bitten. And yeah, he gets himself into this weird contraption where he stops the blood flow to his brain, and that apparently stops the infection, at least in a way, but unknowingly turns himself into a Kabaneri, which means he is now this half Kabane, half-human vampire thing that needs to drink blood to stay alive. and he also is, kind of has superpowers and is kind of immortal in a way. So all the traits that you would assume come with some form of zombie or zombieism or vampirism. Anyway, all this is being revealed to him by a girl called Mume, who is a Kabaneri herself. And they end up on the Kotetsujo after Ikuma's town gets overrun by Kabaneri. And among other things, they have to fight to get accepted by the people who are still human on the train, because almost everyone thinks they're monsters, stuff like that. And they also have to find a safe haven for the survivors of the town that Ikuma stems from. So yeah, that's the basic story setup. The show is produced by Studio Wit, which we've already mentioned a lot of times on that show. They have done Attack on Titan and Seraph of the End. Shows I think we both liked. We've reviewed Seraph of the End at the first 2 seasons and liked it. And I think most people who have seen the show like Attack on Titan. So there's that. And Kabaneri especially has some beautiful animation. And the reason for that is the character design looks like they took old school 80s artwork, character designs, and applied modern shading techniques to it.
Yeah. That's what really caught my eye with the original promo videos.
Yeah, and which is actually kind of exactly what they did. I will link a Crunchyroll article below this episode that talks about how and why this show actually had its own makeup artist. And regardless how the actual process works, I won't get into detail here. You can look that up in the article, and that's has been detailed in several articles actually. The technique they use to apply details to close-ups of characters' faces is stunning. Some of those close-ups could be lifted right from the colored cover page of certain mangas, older mangas. Like just in terms of coloring, in terms of details, in terms of shading, just the faces look fucking gorgeous. And the lighting and environments in the show just match that style, and it just feels very homogeneous, and it looks really, really good. Like this really, really nice, bright and colorful shading. It's really impressive looking. Like this show is a visual feast at times, and I was really impressed with its look overall. The animation quality itself is not always consistently amazing, but when it needs to, it looks stellar. I guess that's what a studio with it usually does. Most of the time it looks great. Not always, but when it needs to, it looks fantastic. So there's that.
I mean, they're willing to put in the extra work. Though,
oh yeah,
when they need to.
The important moments look great, and that's if you don't have an even budget and you have to take some shortcuts, you would want to be the good looking episodes, the ones where something interesting happens, and that's also what that show does. So yeah, great stuff. It's directed by Tetsuro Araki, again, Attack on Titan. He also did Guilty Crown and High School of the Dead. And if that does tell you anything, just from those 3 titles, it should tell you that subtlety is not his thing.
What a resume.
Yeah. And just like his other stuff, Kabaneri is very loud and in your face. And if you like your loud emotions, Kabaneri is for you. If you don't, it maybe isn't. It's just as loud and screamy and in your face, just like Attack on Titan is, even more so in parts, I feel. And sadly not as justifiable from a character writing standpoint, but we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, it's a very broad, it's a very loud show, and not so subtle with its messages and everything. And yeah, just in terms of direction itself, let's say the action and everything, and when the budget is there, it looks stunning, just like with the animation. Great framing and everything, great direction overall. Definitely one of the high points of that show. I like his style. I don't like all of his shows, but he knows how to make a scene work and how to make it dynamic and entertaining to watch. There's a lot of neat stuff to look at in the show, and I would attribute a lot of that to him. So yeah, good work, I guess. Um, it's written by Hiroshi Seko, who did a lot of stuff on Sarah of the End Season 2. And he also did some episode scripts on Attack on Titan. And he worked also on Panty and Stocking and Terror and Resonance, which are some, pretty different shows, I
And
would say.
apparently an episode of Kill la Kill as well.
Yeah, exactly. So he's done pretty different stuff. I haven't seen Panty and Stocking. A lot of people don't like it, I've heard. Terror and Resonance is a really mixed bag. It starts really strong and then just...
Yeah, it kind of ends with a whimper instead of the bang that it should.
Yeah. It just keeps on driving over that cliff, and then the scream while it falls into the ocean gets quieter and quieter, and you don't hear the splash. So still don't know where I would rank Kabaneri. The writing is pretty much on a constant down curve, I would say. I had higher expectations of Terror and Resonance because it was a Watanabe show and everything, and was more disappointed with how that turned out at the end than I was with Kabaneri, because, I don't know, Kabaneri pretty quickly made it obvious that it was a dumb action show, and I didn't have to expect more from it, even more so than Attack on Titan. And so maybe that's the reason why I wasn't too disappointed. I was disappointed in certain regards, but not so much that I would say like I was as disappointed as I was with Terror and Resonance. So maybe I would still rank Kabaneri over that in terms of the work he did. Music, Hiroyuki Sawano, one of my favorite composers in anime and games. He has done Xenoblade Chronicles X, and yeah, I know people have been bringing this up, but I know he's kind of a one-trick pony when it comes to his style, but goddamn, I like his style so much. This weird mix of pop synth with high orchestral sound and everything, and the male and female artists, vocal artists used in his the ending songs and opening songs he composes and he puts also in the show. I just like it. His music can bring out a lot of great emotions in certain scenes. It didn't work so well in this show, but that's mostly attributed to the writing. But the music itself is still great, and I love his musical style and his composing to death. So if it's not your thing, I can totally understand it. But I just love this music. I just love his stuff. I don't know about you.
Oh no, I love Solano as well. So when I saw, that was one of the other reasons why I got on board with the show. I was like, hell yeah, I hear more of his music.
Definitely. So let's talk about the problems of the show. So like we've already mentioned, a lot of Kabaneri setup felt very Attack on Titan-esque. Like it tried to be an Attack on Titan. I wouldn't say Attack on Titan killer, but like it tried to venture in the same, or play in the same ballpark.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like from the onset it was obvious that Araki was like, I can make one too.
Yeah, you got your post-apocalypse stuff, people isolated in cities surrounded by giant walls. You got a protagonist who wants to fight the monsters and kind of ends up becoming one himself. You got your superstition, your controlling government with its secret agendas and everything. You got your steampunk. So a lot of those themes and setups feel very familiar if you've watched Attack on Titan. But while Kabaneri is, in my opinion, paced a bit better than Attack on Titan in certain parts, it never reaches the emotional heights Titan does, in my opinion. And the action, while great looking, doesn't have as many showstopper moments either. I don't know if you felt the same.
Yeah.
So some of that can be attributed to the cabinet not being as scary as the Titans, in my opinion. I didn't know if you felt like that too. Like they don't feel like this overwhelming power that humanity is like almost completely hopeless and powerless against.
I mean, they kind of paint it that way at first just because they don't have the means to like permanently put them down, or at least they seem to imply that at the beginning.
Yeah, because
and then Ikoma makes his like jet bullet gun thing, and it's suddenly like, oh, we have the power to fight back. When later on, it's like, oh, hey, guess what? There's already people doing this sort of thing. It's like, oh,
Yeah, exactly. It just comes down to that, like this first town we encounter, Ikoma, and everything. It seems to be a bit under-equipped and not being able to handle a full-on invasion of Kabaneri that good. But later on, when you get to other cities, unless people act like complete idiots or assholes for some reason, humanity seems to have a rather decent grip on the whole zombie situation. I don't know. Maybe minus the rather itchy trigger fingers when it comes to possible Kabaneri candidates. You know, the all too rash judgment when it comes to, you know, you maybe being bitten and everything and then getting executed. Aside from that, like, humanity is not like, okay, there's this one town, and if Titans would just, you know, invade all the way to town and kill everyone, humanity would be done for. It's like, okay, there are some towns here and there who have like a real good system in place to deal with possible threats. There might be some innocent victims, you know, killed on the side, but humanity will survive this. Like, it's an unfair society. Like, people, innocents are killed, but humanity overall might survive this situation. So it doesn't feel as threatening. It doesn't feel as, I don't know, as apocalyptic and as thrilling as a setup of Attack on Titan does. At least not in the details. At least that's what I got of it. And the Kabaneri themselves just, you know, don't look like this overly threatening force. Some of the stuff looks downright goofy, like when they attack the trains at mass and just fucking get plowed over by the Iron Fortress, and this weird CG, little small CG bodies just get thrown through the side. It just looks like someone is driving through, I don't know, through hay stick figures or something. And it's just, they lack some of the threatening appeal that the Titans have, in my opinion. That's it.
Well, I think it was with the Titans because, you know, they were Titans. They were so much bigger in scale,
yeah,
as opposed to, you know, oh, humanoid zombies. But
and they try to compensate that in Kabaneri by, you know, making it always like this huge horde of Kabaneri that is just should be this overwhelming force, right? There's like a mass of bodies that a lot of people might not be able to handle. But then, like you said, later on in the show, you get so many people who are equipped for one reason or another to deal with this kind of threat, and you can handle this kind of mass zombie infestation. So I don't know. Like I said, the threat level never felt as high as in Attack on Titan, and the despair and everything that comes with that never was that big. They try to, you know, make it come from another place, but that doesn't work as much either. So
I feel like I would say it felt inconsistent in that regard more than anything else.
Yeah, they diffuse some of the danger that should result from, you know, the Kabaneri always being outside the cities pretty quickly and unceremoniously, just to make some people look like badasses or set up a different threat or like that. So while the Titans in Attack on Titan are always like the main basic threat for some reason or another, the Kabaneri themselves are not the biggest threat in Kabaneri for some reason, for one reason or another. Yeah, the other big stumbling block for the show is its story. While the setup is while the setup itself is pretty neat, and some of the characters like Ikoma and his buddy Takumi are pretty cool and likable, there's also a lot of dumb shit in this show.
Can I just say before you go on that I loved the predator moment between Ikoma and Takumi, where he's just like, ah! And they like do that like bro handshake.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what they were going for, but if it wasn't all, it had to be. It had to be.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, those two, and we got other likable characters too, like the the princess who is in command of the Tetsujo, she's pretty cool too, and her bodyguard, while a bit gruff, is also kind of turns out later to be kind of a cool character. He's an asshole in the beginning, but he,
Yeah, we
warms
see
up.
that he is actually kind of human.
Yeah, unlike some other people on the show. And
Hmm.
yeah, like I said, probably the most sympathetic and cool characters are Ikuma and Takumi, and they got some pretty neat development as far as that goes. And the girl that looks after the kids, I forgot her name. She's also pretty cool, and yeah. So they're good characters in this show, but they're also really bad ones, especially the main villain. And yeah, wow, he is.
An asshole.
Yeah, not only that, but he's got kind of a dumb motivation, or the way it's written, it feels really dilettante and I don't know, half-assed. He's also one of the most obvious bad guys ever in terms of character designs, even if the show doesn't immediately play him as one, and that was really weird to me. It's like he just he appears, you see him the first time, and you're like, oh, villain, he's a bad
Yep.
guy. Yeah,
Yep.
he's totally the bad guy, and I would expect the show to immediately go there, but for one or two episodes, they're still like playing it like, he might be actually a faceted, cool character, or maybe he's conflicted, or no, he's a total asshole.
Like
He
they try to make him sympathetic, and they can't. They just
no.
can't.
No, he's the worst trash. He's a super asshole, like in so many different ways. Why would you even try to make him sympathetic or show that he had the show tries to give him a reason for what he does, but it comes to across more like, I don't know, like he's a spoiled emo child or something that can't get over himself. And yeah, he is mostly an asshole. And yeah, also his relation with Mume is one of the downsides of the show, because I don't know if that is putting it the right way. I'm kind of struggling with the language here, since I'm not a native speaker. Sorry, guys, but the his badly written character also by proxy kind of rubs off badly on the way Mume is written, because in the beginning she seems to be a cool, interesting character with a lot of potential. Like she, first off, we see her. She comes like across like this really strong, strong-willed character who got her shit together, and she knows how to fight, and she like literally beats Ikuma into shape, and tells him, "Here's what's what, and this is how you survive, and this is what you have to do, and don't be such a pussy," and stuff like that. She's basically this show's version of Levi from Attack on Titan. She's okay, maybe a bit more affectionate, because Levi is a real asshole to Eren, and while she's kind of rough with Ikuma and everything, she's still kind of sympathetic in a way and more warm towards him. So she's a bit nicer than Levi was to Eren. But yeah, still she is kind of the Levi of the show in the beginning, and at least that's how she's played. And yeah, she got her shit together. She knows what she's doing, but unlike Levi, she's also seems to have like this a bit too eager side to her when it comes to prove herself and to get right into the heat of battle and everything. So that seems to be her flaw in the beginning, and you learn why that's the way it is, and the reasoning for that should have been much better written. It felt really flat for me, and most of that comes down to the reason of that being her connection to the main bad guy of the show. It really doesn't play out well, and
I mean, I guess you could spin it that her reasoning was warped because of Biba.
yeah, definitely that's the main problem, because like I said, she's played as the strong character in the beginning, and while I don't mind her while I don't mind her being written as, oh, she has actual flaws, and that's interesting. I mean, she has actually a weak side, and she's too overeager and everything. Those are all interesting parts. The problem is the reasoning behind that, and why she is that way, and how that kind of gets resolved, because it kind of doesn't. And I'd have to go into heavy spoilers to explain that well, but which I don't want to do. I still don't want to give that away. It felt really weak to me, and I think the worst treatment she gets is by the end, when she gets pretty much turned into a literal plot device for
Yeah.
the story that comes out of the main guy, realizing his ambitions and everything and putting his evil master plan into motion. It's not quite on the level of an endgame character assassination of a female protagonist as we got in, let's say, Planetes, but it's up there, and I found it to be pretty disappointing. Just in terms of her character alone, like I said, the villain is already. I gave up on the villain when I saw him the first time, and the show did immediately play him as a villain. It's like, oh, come on, guys. But Mume, I still had some hopes for, and then she turns into a really stupid and badly motivated and badly written character who makes some really bad decisions that weren't necessary, that should have been not in the show. And yeah, I really found that to be disappointing. Just because I liked her character in the beginning, and it pissed me off how she turned out. And we get some. There's some comeuppance for her, but it isn't really earned or justified. It's kind of like, okay, we have to wrap this up now, and we have to give her like a kind of a moment of redemption, but it doesn't really work because at this point her character is already kind of destroyed, and it feels lackluster. That's the problem.
Yeah, I think one of the big killers for me, I mean, among all of those things, was trying to steer away from spoilers and be as vague as I can. There's a certain thing that Ikoma does toward the end of the show in order to be able to get things done, as it were. And there's no consequence for it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. Oh, that thing's going to do this. Oh, well, I don't care, just as long as I can get it done. And then it's like, oh, everything just turned out
all right.
Everything was all right in the end. It's like, what? No.
Yeah. Like they they didn't really stick to the roots they set up just for the sake of, I don't know, a happier ending, I guess. And
yeah, I mean, I felt like it would have had more meaning if it had, a bit more of that, like, bittersweet, I guess, ending.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like they were backing away from what they set up at the very last moment. It felt like, okay, we can't let this be too much of a downer, so let's do this instead. And yeah, it just in terms of how the show is played up to that point, that feels kind of like they were chickening out. Again, disappointing. Was that the thing? Because you told me that you didn't like the ending at all, like the final episode. And was that the main thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, all of the other things certainly added to it, but when they pulled that, I was like, are you serious? No, come on. You can't be afraid to do these things.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But despite all of that, I was still content with most of how the show wrapped up. Probably because I don't know, parts of it were the action in the final episode was top notch, like probably the best action parts in the whole show. And just given the writing at this point in the series, the story could have wrapped up a lot worse, in my opinion. Just I still expected something much worse to happen, like one last shitty ploy by the villain or some weird twist that didn't make any sense whatsoever. I mean, we got that in part with, like you said, how they tried to flip it around to make it a happy ending. But I still expected something shittier and something more dumb and outrageous. And that still was on a level where it was like, yeah, okay, that's stupid, but it's still in line with what the show has been doing up to that point. So I'm already used to this kind of dumb. That was a new level of dumb. So I guess I wasn't too put off by it, and I still was kind of content with how the show wrapped up. Although I have to say, I still had to laugh out loud at how the show badass up Ikoma in the end, and how forced that felt. Like, even for this show, he literally looks like a different character at the end, like a completely different character. It's like, okay, now his character is completely turned around and he has to look the part, so fucking make him the super badass that he was always meant to be. And I was like, what?
Yeah, it was kind of. No, it wasn't kind of. It was really goofy.
Yeah, it was felt really forced. But still, I enjoyed the final episode despite all its shortcomings. And I guess by the end, while I in the beginning expected Kabaneri to give us more of an interesting story like Attack on Titan did, by the end or from the halfway point on, let's say when the villain Biba was introduced, which is a stupid fucking name by the way.
Did you notice? Speaking of that, every character only has one name. There's no like family or last names.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Which I don't know if that's something really worth mention or worth pointing out, but it was a thing that happened. It's like everyone only has one name. Oh, huh.
Well, I can't speak for anyone else, but since the villain is an asshole and his name is Biba, maybe his first name is Justin. I don't know. So that would make a lot of sense. Also, that was the thing every time his name got mentioned. That was the thing my brain immediately went to. And there's like this weird theme song of a podcast I listen to. Every time they talk about some stupid shit Justin Bieber did, he got his own theme song, and part of the lyrics are "Nobody fucking needs you because you're a little cunt." And I was like, "Yep, that fits the show right here." That totally fits this character as well. And maybe I'll play this music at the end of this episode because it's really appropriate for this character. Like you can put that in the background. Actually, it was always every time that character appeared on screen, it was running in my head in the background as background music and drowning out Sawano's score. Like I said, definitely when Biba was introduced, that show was like I wasn't left with any hopes of the story being anything even close to what Attack on Titan delivers. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be a dumb action show, and it's not gonna get any better. So I'm just gonna take it as that at face value. And still, it disappointed me in some ways, but yeah, not as much as it could have, I guess. And I still left it with a kind of okay. It's not Titan, but it's still not a super bad action show. It's if you like great looking art design and cool action and can stomach some pretty dumb story developments and character writing, I still say give it a chance. I mean, the action beats are great, the animation itself is great, and just for the visuals alone, in my opinion, it's worth checking out the show. I mean, it's not a long one. Did it 12 or 13 episodes? And yeah, that's a pretty short time investment for if like I said, if you don't mind your dumb action shows, give it a chance because it looks really good and it's still entertaining. There will be some moments where you like probably rest your head in your hands and like, was that necessary? But other than that, I still had a good time with that show. And don't take it too seriously. Don't expect too much good story, even if the show makes it appear like it will offer you that in the beginning. But trust me, it won't. Still, it's one of the better shows I watched in the past seasons. It's a stupid action romp. I can't probably say anything more about it. And it leaves itself open for a sequel. I'd watch it. I don't know about you.
I don't know, maybe. Because, I mean, while I don't, like, forwardly and totally dislike it, it was not without its problems. And I mean, the ending really, I feel like, just killed it for me.
Okay, I can totally understand that. And it probably did for some other people, too. It, like I said, it gets really dumb and frustrating in a lot of ways by starting from the halfway point, just in terms of how certain characters act and everything. Yeah. So, and some of the stuff is just goofy and dumb.
And I mean, I'm all for goofy, but, I gotta draw the line in the sand somewhere.
Yeah. Like I said, I can totally understand that. But if you can see past that, if you can see the goofy and dumb parts, and, you want to see some cool action stuff, you will get that out of the show. I don't know, just in terms of sequel talk, its possible popularity might have been a bit dampened by it being an Amazon Prime exclusive in the way. And Amazon doesn't know how to advertise its exclusives to the right people, like, at all.
Yeah, it did seem like there was a severe lack of advertisement.
So I don't know if there is even a high enough demand for a second season. We'll see. I don't know how it did in Japan. Like I said, I wouldn't mind it. I would watch it, albeit with a lot lower expectations than I had at the beginning of the first season. Because like when I watched the first 1 to 3 episodes, I was really hyped for this show, and a lot of other people were like, "This man, this could be as big as Attack on Titan. This looks amazing, and the characters are cool, and the story could be really good." And then later on, nope, it definitely won't be that. But it's a short, entertaining show. And if you're in the mood for some dumb action, some dumb, really good-looking action, I'd say give it a chance. John, do you have any final words you want to throw at the listeners to wrap up this review?
I guess just don't go into this with super high expectations. I mean, I feel like I tried not to because it looks like I said, Araki just wanted to be like, hey, I can do Attack on Titan as well, except with more steampunk, and actually setting it in Japan instead of, I guess you could say Attack on Titan is like Western Europe.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, that's kind of how I felt beginning to end. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't outwardly hate it, but it has some rough humps to get over.
Yeah, definitely.
Justin Bieber, nobody fucking needs ya. Wanna know why? I'll tell you why. 'Cause you're a little cunt.
And that is a wrap on the 13th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vrt.badcamp.com and check out his awesome work. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and animebrainfreeze.com. Leave us a comment any way you like, or send us an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next show. Adios.
Take care, everybody.